Oh. I think
Hello.
most of,
Welcome to the December Omaha Linux Users Group meeting. On my earlier announcement, I said that the water is shut off in the building, the toilets are inoperable at the moment. Happy holidays, I guess, is another one. It is December. For goodness sake, it's December 1st, and it was 50 degrees earlier today. It's 50 degrees a half an hour ago, I guess.
And it can stay 50 all year.
Guess
I
what?
would love it to stay 50 degrees all the
It
time.
won't be by Friday.
No, it will not. It's supposed to be getting much colder. Rob is going to continue on from his presentation from last month. We've got some stuff put together. A lot of work and time in on it. Everyone's been contributing and pitching in, so I guess that's take it away. Rob.
okay. I have to thank John Larson a lot because he spent probably, bare minimum at least a whole day just trying to set things up, set up virtual machines and changing around his infrastructure. One of the things we were hoping to have to make it easier would be to have what we were talking about last time, a DHCP daemon that would hand out different gateway addresses depending on what NIC vendor requested it. So we were going to set fake vendor IDs for each virtual NIC, and then but that requires AIM to change their network around, and it's too much work. The thing is, don't have it. Well, let's see. Can you go to that window? Oh, shit. Am I connected in? Is this remote desktop session or whatever? VNC, is it connected into the?
It's VNC.
Is it into the bare metal machine or am I into the guest?
You're into the host. See,
Oh.
It says VirtualBox right
Okay.
there.
All right. So
So we're nested, a machine within a machine within a machine.
okay. Yeah, it's just. I'm a little nervous. I don't.
Would you like me to make it full screen?
No. I think
Okay.
we'll be okay. Because I think. Yeah, actually, why don't we go back and show them the network configuration for the virtual machine?
Maybe you can recap what you're doing.
Yeah.
That might be a good place to start, since I don't think Bill was here last month.
So
That was your spirit.
the idea is you have a single machine with multiple NICs in it, and each NIC might be connected to a different internet connection. So you're basically having multiple, normally on most machines you only have a single NIC and you have a single system-wide default route. But if you have multiple NICs, and they're on different LANs basically, and they have different, or even on the same LAN, but you want to have different default gateways for each. That gets a little more difficult to set up in Linux. So the idea of this OLUG meeting was to have these virtual machines that each of you could play with, just to go through setting up multiple gateways on a Linux box. And so say you have a laptop, there's a wireless card and a Cat5 Ethernet connection. And if they have two different gateways on it, default gateways, you need to know how to set it up to use two different gateways simultaneously. So another title for this could be, well, legacy systems are a single NIC and single system-wide default gateway. This is how, if you've ever tried to post to a mailing list and ask them how to set up two default gateways, you'll get hammered. Because it's not, for what we're doing, we're going to have a scenario, instead of having a single system-wide default gateway, we'll have that, but then each NIC has its own gateway. So it's like a NIC specific gateway instead of a system-wide gateway. So, somebody have any questions on that? Anybody have this problem before?
You can see the flaws on it.
So, to kind of give you an idea of the infrastructure on the land you're currently on right now, the idea is to have 3 different gateways, using just 3 off-the-shelf SOHO routers. There's a normal AIM subnet, which starts with 10 dot. And that's the IP of its gateway. There's a cradle point. It's a cell phone travel router in the back. It actually has its own internet connection. It's going to it can take IP addresses in the Class C with 192.168.168. Its IP address, or for this NIC, your gateway IP address would be 192.168.168.1. For the third NIC, it's going to be hooked up to Noel and what's your names? Kevin. Noel and Kevin's set of Linksys routers. That gateway address for your third NIC will have an IP address of 172.16.16.1.
That'll be interesting.
Is there another 172.16.16?
Yeah, there's a 172.16.40 on the other side of that 10.100.0.253.
Well, if we do this right, that I don't
It
think
shouldn't
that'll
really
be a
matter.
problem.
Yeah.
Because it's natted, but
Does it actually go to the?
well, that's kind of like, I'll draw it real quick. Okay, so you got a lab, you got Linksys.
That's
you
the
have
AIM Linksys, but
another Linksys, and then you have Cox, right?
yeah.
So you've got this Linksys, say like the bar, and then I have a guest, like that. But it also does other stuff in the building. So it's kind of just how that all works.
Is the bar 172.16.40?
No, the bar,
That doesn't.
it's 40, but on the other side of the bar, it's like 23 and 22. It's all 172s in this aspect, right? So
there or 172.16 anywhere?
Yes, on the other side of the lab. It is.
Okay, it shouldn't,
It shouldn't really
But
be any
by
big
the
deal.
time Any of those 172s, they've been added away from 172.
Theoretically, you could probably ping 16.40. Ouch. Because you should be able to ping the Cox router as well. I mean,
Yeah, that's it.
show my IP.
Just send it upstream completely unadded.
so this brings up one of the things that kind of changes how you have to look at routing. If we were destination-based routing only, that could be a problem. But with IP Route 2, it's source-based routing. So the first routing decision can be made on what NIC you're coming out of, the source instead of opposed to the destination. And this guy that created, it might be a Z, I think. So Alexi, I think he had some luck on his side. He's got net in his name. He's the one that came up with, at least from what I understand, routing not based on just destination, but also based on the source of where you're coming from. So,
So it's making two decisions.
yeah.
So one decision two criteria. Routing based on where you're going and where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You guys?
So, I think, I mean, I don't know if you can, the virtual machine's set up to have 4 virtual NICs in it. So you can see it's hard, it might be hard to read this, but local host, ETH1, ETH2, ETH3, and ETH4. You notice there's no ETH0. It's just a quirk of this place, I guess. I'm not really sure. But, normally the first one's ETH0. The idea would be ETH2 would be have an IP address from this range, 192.168.168, and E3 will have this, hopefully, 172.16.16. Actually, no, we were able to, because that's a
I have
class.
set that router twice, and I can't talk to it. So I do 172.16.16.
Are you changing the IP address in the URL bar? The address bar?
That might be a limitation of your firmware, maybe.
Possible. So I'm trying the other one, but now it's the
Well-
other one because I disabled something.
Because that's normally 170. Can you set it with a 24-bit subnet mask or a Class C,
That's what I
or
was trying.
does it have to be Class B? And then,
You should be able to do it class C.
I set it to a 5.1.1.1, and it
are
works. just
you
fine.
running GD Word on your Linksys hardware, or you're running stock Linksys?
Stock Linksys.
What version number? Are they all BEFS R41s?
Sounds right.
What's there a version number on the bottom? Be like a 2 or a 3?
Well, you know,
Or
A 4?
we don't, really, as long as we have 2 gateways, we'll be fine. That'll be enough to test it. So, I think the next step, though, would be to, again, because we kind of ran out of time, but we'll just go through VirtualBox and how to set up multiple NICs so that your virtual machine and VirtualBox has multiple NICs.
Why do you always put your head down? It's not like there's a chopper blade there.
Technically, I
Stand
probably
up, be
shouldn't
proud.
because, you know, I'm actually putting my head in the front of the camera. I
Yeah.
should probably stand up, then you're seeing my crotch.
If,
Well, that's what they tune in for.
how many people here have used Sun VirtualBox? So almost half. So if you go in, oh, by the way, to log into these Fedora workstations, well, first you got to make sure it's booted up into Linux. If it's not, let us know. But I think they all are. And then the login to the bare metal Fedora workstation, student?
Yes.
Yeah. On the virtual machine, it's, I already have it written down.
It's OLUG.
Is the user. And the root password.
Yeah, this is ultra secure. It's going to be hard for you to remember this, but try it.
I don't know. Everybody with a Dvorak keyboard's gonna be at a disadvantage.
Yeah. So, you don't have root on the bare metal machine, but you got root on the virtual machine. And the root password is QWERTY. Normally, how I get into root on a Fedora-based system is by SU, not sudo. Do this is a L. I'll specify the username, and then it's going to prompt for the password for root, and you put in QWERTY. So anyway,
Out of semantics, why do you use the L?
to specify the login name.
Oh, unless you SU dash root.
Just a shoe.
Yeah, if you're going to root, you don't need to specify root.
That's your
That's
name.
your dash.
What if your root account isn't actually root? You changed your username.
How often have you seen that?
Don't know
I do.
for
I
sure.
used to do it all the time.
Wow.
I never, ever had a Windows machine with administrator or a Linux machine with root. I can't say that's the case anymore, but that's what I used to do.
Once you go past 5 machines you manage, then it gets to be.
Yeah. But to get to Sun VirtualBox, you go to Application, System Tools, Sun VirtualBox, and then you'll see this screen. Now, on my screen, and actually this is after you selected the OLUG Fedora. So you go to Applications under System Tools, you'll find VirtualBox. You start that up. I think you have to highlight OLUG Fedora. And under there, you're only going to see one network adapter. You're going to need to change yours to have, well, just at least 2 network adapters. You can add the other 4 in total if you want, but you don't need to.
It's pretty easy to do. There's just 4 tabs for adapter 1, 2, 3, and 4 under network. You just check the box that says enable network adapter. You won't be able to do it on there because you're running.
Yeah. Can I look at it?
This image supposed to import this guy doesn't
Because they gotta set them up as bridged instead of
choose download outside of the options. In fact, I didn't even think this machine would run right here. Right, with their computer.
your screen's going to look a little bit different, but
That's good. I think
when you get into this network adapters, there's be 4 tabs, 1 for each network adapter. You're going to have to change, you have to enable it for each of these.
these two are good.
and then change it to a bridged adapter.
Those two, I think.
Which gives it a presence on the external network.
Well, he's not.
Yeah,
he's using
it's like it's another.
Another
NIC.
IP, just like it's another piece of bare metal.
Yeah, it's like another NIC plugged in to that switch back there.
No one knows the problem.
So,
And the only way anyone knows it's not is because of the MAC address.
of course, it could be, the MAC address could be faked.
Right.
So, I have adapter 1 set to this Intel Pro Gigabit MT desktop one. And then adapter 2 is the AMD PCNet 2. This is what I'm talking about, it's just the model name here.
So your adapter one was bridged, right?
Yeah, they all are bridged, and they're all going to be, what this means is they're all going to be bridged to the ETH1 adapter in the host bare metal machine. This is going to be the same under all 4 of these tabs. It's all going to be ETH1, assuming the machines are all the same. So adapter 1 is the Intel desktop gigabit. Adapter 2 is this AMD PCNet number 2.
PCI 2.
And adapter 3 is PCNet 3. Just the
4. You got, what's 4 configured as?
4 is,
Do we even need 4?
we don't need it, but
Okay.
it's the one of the Intel server ones. But really, all you need is adapter 1 and adapter 2. Maybe I'll take that down.
They all squeak.
Is it the board or?
It's an old board. When the drier the pens get, the more they squeak.
Somebody have any questions, or, I mean, I guess not all of you got virtual machines. Actually, which machines don't work?
Those two?
Oh, you guys might want to move up here. It don't work. The virtual box didn't install completely.
I couldn't get the kernel module to compile on those two for some reason. I got it compiled on all the other ones, but.
So you eventually got it on those two as well?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we just copy it over.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's great.
This one just installed 762 updates.
Yeah, I was working on that one.
John's done a lot of work to,
I had to bring everything up to current specs in order to get the kernel to compile certain things.
somebody could sit here, but they can only watch.
Mostly because that's the new virtual box that came out yesterday. So that's 3.1. The version that comes with Fedora 10 does not support importing and exporting of appliance images. So I set up the image upstairs and I brought it downstairs and I couldn't import it on any machine until I went through and redid it.
And the other thing that might be like mind tricks on you is that, and in a virtual box configuration, it'll say that the virtual machine extensions are enabled, VT extensions. But since these Intel Atom ones don't have VT extensions, it'll try to use it, but then it won't be able to. So it might be a little bit slower from that, but I don't really even see much of a difference on a VT-based machine versus not.
I do. When you're running, if you're running like a Windows box, it's like it's actually faster in virtual than it is on bare metal. Depends on how much memory you have. Okay, we've got our network adapters. It's going to take a while for people to boot.
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3 for 3.
Just 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So in other words, Intel 85, and then the PCNet 2 and PCNet 3.
Okay.
One of the interesting quirks about VirtualBox is when you go to create a disk image, it gives you two options. It gives you the dynamic image and then the fixed sized image. If you ever want to mount your image through a loop device to be able to get at the files, don't make it dynamic. Because you can't guess the offsite right all the time, and you might be able to get at it for a few seconds and then it just goes.
Do they have a utility to convert disk images to formats?
I have not seen one yet. My plan was to set up a VirtualBox session to boot off of a CloneZilla instance and attach the two hard drives, a dynamic and a fixed, and then just copy all the stuff over to a fixed.
Interesting.
I'd like to see how fast it would run.
What I like to do for a lot of my virtual machine images for the drive, just use DD to make,
Set up the images ahead of time.
yeah, like
do a
what's it
couple
called?
other things.
Well, that was one of the steps for Zen, wasn't it? Just to do DD and then.
Yeah, because you do a seek in there, and I forget what it's called, where you have, let's say, the file like 20 gigs.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Oh, did you touch the?
Yeah, if I touch this, is it
it's a
bring me?
smart board.
Yeah.
It draws.
But why would it knock me out of?
It's minimized.
That's,
Oh yeah, see how that works.
You didn't do
And
it.
a virtual eraser.
okay. Okay, so this high-tech stuff, I'm just not. It's kinda-
Where's my whiteboard?
Your OS type might say
Other.
generic or other. You might want to change it to at least Linux 2.6 or Fedora.
Did you change the video display memory to 5?
It did, because when I booted up, it said it's better at 5. But I don't even know if your machine has any video memory, actually.
Huh.
Pardon?
Well, it's all shared for that. Because it's a 950 chipset, so it's shared.
Yeah, so this was another change that I made that didn't make it to all your workstations. It was just,
I had initially set it to 16 when I created the image.
Oh,
When I
really?
imported it, it changed it to 12.
Huh.
So I think it has to do with the container file that transfers over with the image.
so what does your machine say? Does it say?
Well,
It says 12?
Yeah.
Okay. Mine was 4 and I changed it to 16. Further down, you might want to just go ahead. I don't know if it's going to make a difference speed-wise, but
You got to put the pen back in the.
put the pin back in here to use the mouse. Well,
Because it's in pen mode.
okay. You might disable audio. I didn't do it on this one, but maybe that will speed things up. 'Cause you won't need it. You won't really need USB.
My machine's up. Yours up? It's coming up?
Plug again.
Yeah, it's really slow at the first couple times you boot it up, and then it's not so bad.
No, they're very nice. They don't get very large. I like the those people has a fortune account of snake. Hedgehog.
Hope you've got plenty of address space in your DHCP.
What's that?
Hope you've got plenty of address space in your DHCP range.
Yeah, is it a 24? Yeah, it's only 256 computers.
Yeah, there's
Um,
some of them limited to less than that.
Yeah.
Depends on how you've got it set up.
Yeah, that was the other thing we forgot is that on this machine, oh, geez, so much to do there. For CHK config
Check config.
under a Red Hat derivative changes the. I mean, this isn't an Ubuntu, is it? It didn't used to be.
No, it's not in Ubuntu.
Yeah. It changes the init 5 system, mainly, mainly it's used for changing what services start at what run levels and whether you want them to turn on with the machine or not. So what this is saying is Network Manager at run level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is off. NetPlugD, which is a daemon I use, so when you plug a Cat5 cable into a jack, it'll recognize that link and then bring up that network card in its IP configuration. For some reason, it's normally off by default. So I turn NetPlugD on. I turn Network Manager completely off. Turn NetPlugD on and Network on. Network is like a older Network Manager.
That's just enabling network to be on when it starts up. That's the old style if config stuff. It's like if network is off for those run levels, it does not run.
Yeah. So without Network Manager, I might do. Each of those are services, so I can tell them to shut down and restart. And I hope I didn't get a different MAC. Oh, man. I hope I'm getting the same IP. I guess since I'm still connected, I must be. So what you might want to do is do CHK config Network Manager off. Then CHK config NetPlugD on. CHK config network. On. Because unfortunately, Network Manager, in my opinion, shouldn't be called Network Manager because it can only handle one NIC at a time. If you look at its description in the Fedora, on the Fedora website, it says it explicitly says it's not designed for multiple NIC scenarios. One of the, I'm terrible at anticipating how long it would take, but I seriously was thinking at the last meeting that by the time we got out of here tonight, that we would have modified Network Manager to take multiple NICs and
Well, I use Network Manager to reshare out my cellular broadband modem over my wireless. And that's managing two interfaces. Or turning it into a portable access point with a wire plugged into the RJ45.
are both of them actually configured by Network Manager? Because if in your
You go in and
there's some kind of configuration thing in the interface configuration files where NM equals off.
Mhm.
That means Network Manager isn't supposed to touch that interface.
On my laptop, I do not touch any of the network config, and if I plug the cable in, it does the Ethernet, and then if I say create wireless network, it turns on the wireless and sets it up as an access point through with the wire.
Nice feature.
But do you have to,
It takes care of the firewall.
I don't have to do anything.
Don't worry about
but what if you have, okay, are you going to be in a situation where your laptop's going to have two different gateways? Like one NIC is going to use one gateway and another NIC is going to use a different gateway? Or they're all going to basically end up using the same gateway?
Uses
Because
the
you're
same
behind
gateway.
a...
It uses the same gateway, because
Yeah.
it all comes back through.
Yeah.
You go to your family's house, nobody has internet, and you have a cable, you have a wireless broadband modem, and you share out your laptop to everybody around you. That's essentially the situation you're in. That's been around since 9 and 10.
But on your machine, I'm talking about a situation, say,
No, I'm not going to have what
I've-
we're
I've-
describing.
I've had it where I've had two NICs and plugged them in at the same time and had them configured by Network Manager. I think what
but
happens-
did they have two different, did each of those NICs use the same default
I
gateway?
think what it did was it just took the default gateway of the first one. I'm not sure.
Right, I'll bet you $25. On your particular machine, that's exactly what happened.
It's gonna work, I don't need to put in a gateway on the second thing, because it's just a private network that's in the machine.
And it's probably connected, 99% of the time, you're going to be connected to a Linksys Soho router. That whether you connect wirelessly or you connect over Cat5, the gateway just happens to be the same. But if you run DD-Word on your wireless router and you change it
Yeah.
around
going for
so you
there.
can have multiple gateways running, gateway IP addresses running on your DD-Word gateway, that ain't gonna work.
I was fiddling around trying to set this, so are you using DD Word to, as the DHCP server?
No. It's AIMS hardware.
Okay.
And on that, back here this is another gateway. It's going out through my Altel unlimited data connection. That's not DD-Word either. It doesn't run DD-Word. It's I called Cradlepoint to find out what operating system it runs on it, and they wouldn't tell me. They just said it's proprietary. I don't
Actually,
know.
you can put DD-Word on some Cradlepoint devices.
Can you?
Yes.
So this Cradlepoint router, if you get your NIC set up to use this as the gateway, then you'd be going out over an Altel connection, and what is my IP might show that, or trace route. Because the AIM connection, it's Cox. So if you did like a trace route to 208.67, better write this up here because
That's open.
probably most of you use OpenDNS or have heard of it. Yeah.
Just sort of look like a 1.
Sort of.
When you're troubleshooting this, I highly recommend you don't use any DNS names. I mentioned it last time. It's because your DNS server might not, the DNS server you use, say to do a trace route or a ping, might be on a totally reachable through a totally different gateway than the NIC you're trying to use. So the best bet is to stick just to IP addresses. Gosh, it's over 7:30. Does anybody have any questions? Somebody's going to want to sit up here because we've got a unused machine. And that machine doesn't fully work.
booted up. Oh, okay. That's fine. Oh, that didn't matter. I'll just pay attention.
Does anybody have any questions? Did they get Network Manager turned off? That's kind of... Okay. The current directory I'm in is /etc/sysconfig network -scripts. And then and Red Hat derivatives, that's generally where you set this stuff. Now, before I forget it. This is what, this IP route 2 is what you'll use. And again, that's what this Alexei Kuznetsov wrote up, created. And basically what this will mean is that we're going to add our own routing tables to the system configuration. Before we get there, that's where I'm getting a little confused with this image, but here's this IFCFG-ETH0. But if well, okay, so the /sbin IP command, it's what we'll be using most of the night. And the two main commands we'll use, I got to try to pick up this pen without minimizing this. Yeah. If you haven't used this IP route 2, I highly recommend it because it's got a lot of the different tools you use to do network troubleshooting and configuration, kind of all combined into one. There's link. I just wrote over tunnel. There's address for setting addresses for each NIC. Route, that's probably the route and rule though are going to be the main ones we're going to use. Neighbor is like ART. You know, it's like when you do ART -A at a command line and it tells you what other MAC addresses it sees on the network. IP, if you do IP space neighbor, it'll do a lot of the same things. MADDers for multicast routing, MRoutes for multicast routing. But the main ones we'll use are just route and rule. So for source-based routing, we'll set up some rules so that when the source NIC, when you're using one source NIC, it's going to use possibly a different gateway than the other source NIC.
If you try to use the mouse, it'll draw.
What happens if I hit this keyboard? I'll go
It
back
brings
to
the keyboard up.
Oh, on the screen.
Yes.
Does it use weight based on if it weighs 10 there?
I don't know if it's that sensitive.
Or how it is?
Hit the do not show this again.
Thank you. And it's got, I don't know, command line sensitive help. So if you put in IP route help, it tells you help information specific to that command. Put in IP rule help, it tells you help information sensitive to setting up IP rules. Same with pretty much all of them. Okay. Gosh, no.
It's a little off. You see where the mouse pointer is? Move your pointer up a little bit. It's an artifact of the VNC thing.
You could if you, I don't know.
Is he using VNC to get on the server?
It's talking to that machine over VNC.
This one?
Yeah.
Just because maybe this will give you some bearings, it's not necessarily relevant, but after pinging Google, that virtual machine guest goes out through the host and goes through AIM's router up here, and so that's a demonstration of the neighbor command, which is like ARP. So it's just saying that the default gateway right now has that MAC address. So
You press enter a few times, so it goes up the screen.
thank you. Has anybody here ever tried to add 2 default routes system-wide?
Yeah,
I
it's a
have.
pain in the ass.
It doesn't work.
No,
At
it
least-
doesn't.
So, well, let me. Where am I
You were showing the local table first.
at? Okay, so if you were to type in IP route show table local, this isn't something that you're not going to really see given the normal route command. The legacy route command is IP route show table main. Normally says will appear even exactly the same as when you just type in route. it's not exactly the same. Oh, shoot.
Oh,
Okay.
water, water!
John's going to get his gun because I just used a permanent marker on his $10,000.
It's not a wipe-off marker.
Anybody got some Kevlar I can borrow?
It's a race marker.
Gosh. I gotta stand back just because. So, IP route show table main. Table main is what is basically going to give you the same information as the standard route command or netstat hyphen ANR or NR. Table default
Stood up that.
usually has nothing in it. So what we're going to be doing is we're creating a couple more tables. One for each of the NICs you have in your machine. Any questions?
What's the purpose of the tables then? Table is just going to direct each adapter to what it's going to do? Is that essentially?
Yeah, instead of having just a system-wide table, each NIC can basically have its own routing table.
Okay.
I'm no expert, by the way, on any of this. You know, I mean, I may be saying something wrong,
IAN.
technically or legally,
AE.
legalese, but at least it works. You know,
Well, you know, it's what you've gone through, what you found out, and now you're discussing it. That's
Right.
how it goes.
it's from my experience. It's not necessarily maybe the best way to say it. I'm no expert whatsoever. And you'll see this right now because even though I've I set up
Once you run the setup, and go in and do the device setup.
set of doing. Oh, okay. What is it? Network
It's
setup?
just setup.
Let me try this one real quick.
Not this one? Is this not what you were looking for?
I would have just done it by files, but that'll be very error prone, copying MAC addresses. So if this can see all the,
It doesn't see all of them. Well, not on mine. It only sees one.
do you have, are there 4 enabled in your?
I have 3 enabled. See, as soon as you hit device params, you're only going to see the one. Probably shouldn't have saved and quit. You should just quit. Just say enter. So that it only shows the 2 config files that you created.
You know, and that's where it's
Okay.
a little bit, you know, because when you do IPA, which would list out all your IP addresses, or ifconfig -a, for some reason on this machine, ETH0 doesn't show up, even though it's showing up here. It's a little bit messy, but
Well, then do system config network.
okay, we'll try that. But I think if I just create 4 files, ETH1, ETH2, ETH3, that might be all I need to do. System config network.
Yeah. So if I say new, it shows me those adapters that I set up. won't show, it shows you the list of the one you have. Then you say new, right? If you go up and say new,
Mhm.
it'll list like PCNet, AMD, and it'll say E3, E4, E2, and E1. So go up and say new,
You know,
just to look.
right.
Yeah, nothing else.
Okay, so I'm definitely in the virtual machine, not the, just one to be sure.
Yeah. Move the, yeah, there you go. It's Ethernet. Oh, you clicked off of it. See, it lists the adapters now. Because it wouldn't list it in the text version. And you would have had to figure out, you'd have to do all the copying from the, with all the MAC addresses from the console.
Yeah. Which, a little error problem.
Why don't you just go to the back of the computer and do it?
I don't know. This may not work because I turned off Network Manager.
This isn't part of Network Manager. This is the actual, this is the tool that's been around since like Fedora 3 and 4.
Yeah.
It's
It was
totally
in Fedora
separate.
4.
So,
You trying to figure out what address to use?
yeah, you know, so. I
Well,
was either gonna
it's the
use
machine.
last-
Use the machine. If that's lab number 10, just use 10.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
That should do it.
Yeah, so like, you guys get, when you get to that, you might, yeah, use the number on the name of your machine. Where this is, I'm gonna go ahead and just delete this auto ETH1 because
That's when he was just copying some files from.
maybe I'll just. Yeah.
Should be able to just, if up, bring up the interface.
Yeah. I might have chosen the wrong.
Would you do ETH1?
Yeah, I might have done one when I should have done two. And then this error that may be coming up here in a second. That's just something that's goofed up in our machine, but normally you would never see that.
See, Heath 1,
Yeah.
68.10.
And it changed the default gateway to the cradle point router in the back. So. So I'm going to rerun system config network and
Probably get rid of that one. The auto one.
what's that, John?
I would get rid of the auto one. That one. It doesn't allow you to delete it.
This pan 0 might be kind of part of the problem too.
Oh well. Personal area network. Normally see it with Bluetooth devices.
That way your phone can talk to your laptop, to your
As long as the phone advertises itself as having Bluetooth dial-up features. Rob, you want me to type those in while you keep talking?
It's going a lot faster than if you were running a truck.
Sorry, I got it.
Or you want specific ETH devices to be specific networks? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah. And I wasn't sure which one was which.
AMD really doesn't identify itself as what's what. There's still the same driver for each one.
Oh, okay.
Even though it's a 32, it's the PC Net 2 or 3, it's in the same driver stack.
Okay, so I'm going to use this system config network and create another Ethernet connection and base it off. But in my machine, it's thinks it's ETH2 at this point. Gonna statically set the IP address.
172.
We didn't get the 172 thing working, so. I think what I need to do is change the, this ETH1, sorry, it needs to be 10.100.0. Repeat. Can I set this last octet to just be the machine number? Because it used to be 114.
That's putting it on the same network as the VM host. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, these are all going to be on the same network.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Do you know what the lowest number IP address for your workstation is? Does your DHCP server start at 100?
Yes, the current one. There's nothing below 100. Oops.
I haven't had that problem before.
That's because when you read in the config file for this one, there are more options in it, probably after it got written out.
Let me go back and see if it's. See.
I'll do E2 or
Yes.
already set the default.
That means.
That's right.
Thanks.
After the specified DNS,
No.
I'm wondering how it does that. Oh, it does it in the individual file. Okay. That's not set to active.
Okay. Did somebody by any chance set their,
You had the other interface, so I might still use
So what, I mean, normally you would do this, you could do this at a command line. But when you install Linux, it's automatically going to set up the files with the right MAC addresses.
Well, this situation, you're adding adapters in there for the system that already been installed. So there's your two separate routes.
Yeah. Okay, so ETH1 has this 10 dot. So I just, and then ETH2 has this 192.168.168.10 address. And when you do IP route or just route, you'll notice currently it's using the default gateway for the cradle point router in the back. Now, if I do IF down ETH1, no, ETH2, bring down that cradle point one, the question is it going to set the default gateway to the other NIC? Currently, it's still saying the routing tables haven't. Scratch that. For some reason, it's not. All right, so
So it's generating a 169.254 on those specific devices and linking them in. That's what I'm reading. So when you're actually showing the route table, you're showing the link locals for each device. That's wrong.
oh. Gosh, what am I doing here? One more second. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. To make this simple, and it would have required a lot more work on our part and AIM changing their infrastructure. And can you press enter on that to bring it up? So basically, what I'm trying to do here with this ping command is use the interface, use the NIC that's got its IP address configuration to go out through that cradle point router to get to one of the OpenDNS IP addresses. And it looks like it doesn't work. And that's simply because you can only have one system-wide default gateway on the machine. Now, can you Control-C that with the left Control-C key?
No,
Yeah.
but it started to.
Okay, well, just trust me, that's not always going to work. It doesn't. But I bet if you do IP route or just route, IP route show table main, it changed the default router, I mean, the default gateway to this 10100, whereas just a few moments ago, no. No, it was still at that.
It's right there at the top of the screen, default via.
Yeah, it used to be that the default route was out through the Cradle Point router. It's now
We figured out
changed.
the metric and switched it by itself,
Well, look at the,
because it was pinging for at least 63 packets until it flipped.
mhm.
62, 61.
But there is no metric on these, and I mean, what am I trying to say?
Well, where was that file? That was Etsy route to.
IP route 2. And then it's RT underscore tables. Can you do service?
You have it. They're set up as what? Link local, right? When you do a route. These two down here.
Yeah.
That would fall under that rule, correct? Or am I not thinking this correctly?
You know,
Because here's the metric.
these 169 IP addresses, you know, I mean, I normally
Well-
get rid of. But I see what you're saying, that
better?
the metric, it's
Yeah.
gonna choose ETH1 because it's a lower number metric, lower giving the higher priority over ETH2. But you notice for our statically configured NICs and the ones we really want to use, there is no metric, or the metric's the same, so it's going to treat them the same. And the other thing I was hoping to get at is that when you have a single server with multiple NICs, you might have some routes you can only get through one NIC, or you only want to get through one NIC. And even if you wouldn't want to use metrics.
Well, you can
For a
set the
cou-
weights as the way you want them based on your infrastructure. I mean, if you have a
But-
faster route that you want to lower cost to,
Yeah, you could do that. But that's not always what you're going to want to do.
sure.
So
But in my situation, you know, if
Yeah.
I'm using the other one that's a slower link as my backup, I want that to be the higher metric. But that's just in pure failover situation. That's all.
Yeah. There's a reason that sometimes, even with metrics, and even if you got them working, it's not going to do what you want it to do.
No, yeah. Depends.
I'm failing to explain why, but you know, like for instance, metrics are often used for load balancing. So you just want to, it doesn't really matter what route it goes over. There's a next hop thing, a next hop option under the IP route command. And that's commonly used to set two default gateways in the same thing. But this isn't, that wouldn't work for exactly what, for a server with, what I'm trying to say. Because there'll be situations where when traffic comes in over one NIC, you more than likely want it to go back out over that NIC, then not use metrics or anything, or priorities to change it.
Yeah. Well, it'll get dropped by the receiver because that's not where it originated. You know, that's not where it sent packets to. It's going to be out of order.
Yeah.
You're getting an ACK back from some, you know, a SYN from an ACK on a different interface.
Can you see a DH client is running? Can you do service DH client?
Status.
Is it a DHCP? CD?
DH client.
It's not installed.
I'm always misspelling.
Okay, well, this is not there. These 169 automatic private IP address things, they can mess with you. So, let's just assume this is, we have a situation where the gateways aren't working. Can you do IP route again? Yeah, just enter. And Kurt, what's that?
No, PSAX pipe rep to DH client. It's not a service, but it is a process. I think the network spawns that off.
Or would it be? I wonder if network.
Oh, it's just running as a date as a.
As a background process instead of a full
Yeah.
unit.
Can you kill that and just restart the?
What am I restarting?
Can you restart that network just to see if those 169 things go away? I've gotten rid of them before. I don't quite remember how, and it's not. Instead of going into that, if this doesn't clear it, we'll just move forward.
Just let me know.
Thanks. Yeah. Of course, this might be part of our problem too. Actually, can you go into the system, delete that file? There should be a file in there called where is it? It's got the auto in the name. Yeah, delete this IFCFG auto ETH1.
That was from earlier, wasn't it?
Yeah, just delete that too. So why that's saying DHCP, it really
So
shouldn't.
it's not even set up to run anyway, so.
So, well, that's going through. In this file, RT_tables. Just want to add, say, something like 200 and say pin that to this.
Does it actually say NIC 0 or ETH 0?
It doesn't matter. This is, NIC 0 is just, you know, if I were to give it a really verbose name, it would be like NIC 0 routing table.
Does 0 have to be below it? Like that?
It doesn't even have to have a, yeah, that should work. And then, John, is it okay if I just have you type?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so if you cat out IF up, or just use VI and go into IF up routes, it's, yeah. What this does is when you have a, it's kind of a kludge. It'll look for two different kinds of file naming things. So if we were to add in this same folder route hyphen ETH0, route hyphen ETH1, route hyphen ETH2, this IF up route script will process it. And you'll notice, if you look really closely, it's going to add a line. Let's got to see if, well, okay. Maybe the first thing I should point out is this line right here. But even if you just have a single NIC, you don't change anything, you use the default settings, that still uses /sbin/IP. So even though you don't know it, well, you're still using this IP route too.
So we're going to create the route files now? Is that the next step?
Yeah, but maybe, just going to see if there's something. The thing is, when you create these route files, you got to create it. You can't use the normal routing, the normal route command schematics. And you got to know that we need to append into this file everything after IP route add. So that's what's, we're not,
So address, the route number, and the prefix. Is that that's what this says right here. Line equals evaluate of the echo of this. You have to put the pen down real quick.
Okay. It's going to be.
It's not updating the screen.
What did you do?
I'm not doing anything.
Do I have to do it on this machine?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
So yeah, I think we can. Well, and then if you can go down to the bottom of this file, you'll see that it's also going to be looking for.
Nicked out route.
You don't want to. You can't have both. You'll just
One or
totally
the other?
confuse yourself. Nick.route. I'm pretty sure that's the old way of doing it. You want to have route hyphen ethax. And then you'll see this other thing where it's going to be looking for files that start with rule. And this is where we get into the source-based routing rules and other. If you go down a little bit further, you'll see this, it's going to call the IP rule command and add what you add in there. So for both route-fx and rule-etx, we want to add into that file everything that's after this. Okay. So if you can get out of this editor, or just go to this, leave that open and just go to the other terminal. Okay, so if you can get back to the, yeah. We need to be back in the Etsy sysconfig network scripts folder. And you can see that there's no route-etx, there's no rule-etx. So if you could do IP route add help. IP space route add help, yeah. So what we need to add to this file is we're going to be at route. So we go down here to route, and a route is made up of a node spec and an info spec. This is some of the net hop stuff I was talking about, and weights. Okay, so we added into the routing tables, that RT underscore tables we already added. A routing table with the name of NIC 0, a routing table with the name of NIC 1, and a routing table with the name of NIC 2. So what, maybe what we should do is forget the scripts for a moment and do it completely at the command line. So if you just do IP route, oh no, leave that. IP route add excuse me, IP rule. You could do IP rule and help. Okay, so what we need to do is, so let's do IP rule and list just to show that what rules are already there, if any. Okay, so when IP route 2 goes through to find a source-based route, it's going to first look up in the local table, and then the last two things it looks up is main and then default. So we're going to add some rules that will automatically get appended or inserted before it calls the main rules. So if we do IP rule add, so yeah, John types in IP rule add, and then from 10.100.0.10, I think on that particular machine. Dev eth1. Then space table. And then just put this is NIC 1 is our table name. Yeah. Just before you press enter, I'm just trying to remember if I'm. Yeah, press enter. Okay, so now if you do IP rule list again, this new rule shows up that says, I have a packet that's going to come out over this 10.100 eth1 interface. I want to look up the rule for how to route that first in this NIC 1 routing table. before it looks at the default gateway. So first it's going to look at a NIC specific gateway. If it doesn't find a matching route, then it goes to the default gateway. So I think you can put in the word lookup right here, and that might help you to remember that NIC1 is a lookup table. So let's do the same thing, but we do IP rule add from 192.168.168.10, yeah, dev eth2 table NIC2. Okay. Now what we need to do is, so it added that rule. Now if we look at IP route and then do IP route show table all, and that's just going to show all our tables. It's a lot actually of information. Do IP route show table NIC0? Not sure that. Okay, so there's nothing in either of these routing tables. There's the rules that the system will go through to find out what the routes are. It's going to look in these routing tables, see that it's empty, and skip it until we add a route to it. So, yeah, if you want to go ahead and type in route, just for comparison purposes, that's fine. Okay. So now if we do IP route, and let's do help again, just so we have that. So what we need to do is type in IP route, add drawing a blank.
Node.
So yeah, it's going to be it's IP route table, IP route add table NIC 0. I might be doing this wrong. We'll see.
Well, we don't have anything defined for 0. There's no device hooked up to it. You want to do that?
NIC 0 is probably a bad name. It should really probably be routing table for NIC 0, or for routing
That's
table.
fine. But I just,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. It's NIC 1. I see what you're saying.
yeah.
Okay, sorry. IP route, add table NIC 1, and then put
You have to do a device.
via, and then the gateway for your main router, 10.100.0.253. And then dev eth1. I'm pulling that from, stand back.
Ah!
Oh, did I do that?
Maybe. So ETH1 is. Hang on. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, let's try that. I think. Now he's going to add a routing table entry into the other routing table for ETH2. Okay. So to go through this, again, you can type in IP and part of a command and put it in help, and it'll give you more specific information. So what we did is we're adding an IP route. So it's saying IP, if we want to do IP route add, we type in IP route add. Look at route, go down here to route. It's saying a route is made of a node spec and an information spec, info spec. The node spec is going to say, it's going to specify what table to look it up in. If we wanted to add a metric, you could. Whether it's link level, host level, one of the others. NH stands for next hop. Next hop is made of what we use as an example
Well, you can
via our
sell the-
source IP address
Yeah.
and a device alias. So there's a ton of options you can do with this, but that's all you need to know for this. So now if you type in IP route, just press enter. You don't see
It's there.
what you have to do is IP route show table NIC 1, right? Okay, so this is saying,
Hang on a second, let me do this.
okay.
It's not gonna update until you press the end time. There, now take that.
So this is saying that the routing table NIC 1 is going to use a default route of this IP address and route it over the device ETH1. Do the same thing for NIC 2. It's going to give the IP address for the gateway in the back room. Now if you do IP, so let's just do a ping and try it out of both interfaces to get to an open DNS IP address. Really, I guess a trace route would be more specific.
Does that support the dash?
I don't remember. Is it, what?
Does that support dash I?
Yeah, it's something else. I'm pretty sure it might be lowercase I or something.
I,
Yeah, lowercase I. So what we're going to try to do is get to the internet out through a specific gateway.
This one has 3
And-
slots. It goes up to device line.
On lowercase I device, so each one.
oh,
Yeah, that's it.
I didn't hear what he said.
Well, whether you use ETH1 or the IP address itself is can be really problematic.
Well,
Maybe we just use a ping for right now. Can you just do service network restart? That's yeah. Just try that first.
is that gonna clear all the routes? If I do that?
No, I don't remember.
I think it will.
I think you're right. I think it does. There is IP route.
Hey, John, can you do the IP route help command real quick?
We got a quick question here.
IP route what?
Help.
Help.
Okay.
So we were putting in NIC 0 for the table ID, and NIC 1.
but down there it says table ID equals local main default all or some number. Is NIC1 translated to the number 200, or do we need to actually put in 200?
If you do IP, it's automatically,
So it
Trans-
associates the name to the number.
yeah.
Okay.
But to show that, you could,
Yeah,
can you do
something like
IP rule LS and, or IP rule show and IP route show again? Maybe I goofed up to NIC 2, NIC 1.
IP what?
IP route show, even though you already. And then IP route show table NIC 1 and NIC 2. Yeah.
Early ones and still now, they're still locking up. They're locking up. That's why we, this is the 5.
Yeah, I guess like.
Trailing one.
Let me just. John, can you take over for a second? I just. How about we do?
No, that's getting That's what's happening.
I guess I haven't done it the command line for a while. I know when I've run into this before, I've actually added a route ethex file and a rule ethex file. Just restart the network.
Okay.
It's fine.
Well, use
I
the
could do-
config, if we use the config files and stuff like that, that should rectify the situation when you restart it.
No water, right?
Hmm?
No water, right?
No. They'll actually should be back on by now.
It was DDoSed?
Well, it's several blocks, so that's why I said distributed.
To deal with
Yeah.
the construction in general. right?
Yeah, they were doing it down at 18th in Harney.
It was sort of DDoS, or any sort of DOS was, yeah, see that.
It's a DOS dump.
Does anybody here work with OS Commerce?
With what customers?
OS Commerce.
No, not really.
What's that mean?
You installed Fedora 12 yet, Nate?
I think I did somewhere. Maybe a VM.
I have a few machines already.
Yeah, like, from work and Brad, he is a big door man. Well, actually, yeah, I think I was actually using it for a while. I can't remember if it was 11 or 12.
I thought you were using 11 at the time, when
Yeah.
you were doing your VM stuff last
I
August.
think I did it up to 12 in error, I suspect that it was
Mm.
used.
I've only had one machine successfully upgrade.
Really?
Wow.
That's something good.
Well, I was using pre-upgrade,
Yeah.
and I had some weird issues. So like my desktop on my desk maybe the third reboot it would stay up.
Ouch.
And I guess there was a bug in GNOME, so if you had a background that was like the slideshow background where it changes every so often,
Didn't like that.
it locked it. And that got fixed like Thursday or Tuesday of last week or something like that. And I've not had any good luck with the NVIDIA proprietary driver on my desktop.
Yeah.
So the machine upstairs on my desk now uses Nouveau, but that does double head, so that's fine.
Oh, they got the EMS stuff set up for remote
Yep.
I like that.
But I did my machine this morning and I shouldn't have rebooted it, because it doesn't come up with a proprietary driver. That's kind of annoying, because I use 3D acceleration on my machine at home.
Yeah.
The problem partially was they didn't have the NVIDIA drivers in the RPM Fusion repositories. They had it in testing, they did not have it. So when I upgraded my machine from home, it was rebuilding it from the old AK mod stuff that was previously on the old F11 install. So when I updated the kernel today, it didn't do the rest of it. Yep.
Did boot back up to old kernel, didn't it? Did it work? Boot up back to old kernel?
Yeah, well, I had to leave to go to work at that point. So I haven't revisited it yet.
I remember what I was trying to say earlier. Sparse files.
Yeah?
Use DD to make sparse files. That's what I used for-
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because you're just claiming an area for use, and then you have to, you'll still have to format the file system. You're just creating a contiguous space.
Yeah, I just tell it's a raw file.
Mhm.
Yeah, because otherwise I do occasionally want to access drive from the host system and do QCAN or whatever format. QCAN didn't want.
One of the things, obviously I don't got this working, but what I did to debug it was to add in some lines here to echo out to a log file.
Oh, what, at home?
Yeah, it worked. I must not be doing something just right, obviously. Anybody see anything obvious about what we have in those files versus what's going to be processed here?
Not necessarily, no. It's just evaluating the line, it says, this is the address and the route number. Or did you create those files already?
Yeah, just.
All right.
Oh, for that, you gotta have external. See, I want to have the drives.
Yeah, that's one thing I can never really figure out with Red Hat, which is they're all
All the little
configuration files all
scripts.
over the place for the network. That's really confusing.
See, that doesn't work.
A lot of it is Because people upgrade from previous versions, they gotta keep the other stuff around.
We try and maintain backwards compatibility.
Maybe.
A little bit.
Have your recording system, and have another desktop, have another machine.
Although they don't really specify, like, you know, if you're Red Hat Enterprise and you're going from 4 to 5, don't do an upgrade. Just install new and move your data over. I was up until 4 in the morning yesterday doing something like that. After I drove back from Indiana.
That's no fun.
Well, at least you had good weather to drive.
Yes. This is much better than last year.
You could have been in West Texas, where they got 8 inches of snow.
Ooh. In Texas, nobody knows how to drive in snow.
Out there they do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're thinking about Dallas, southeast.
No.
Yeah, I did site support down in Dallas. I was talking to somebody, he grew up out of West Texas area. He
Yeah, the
liked
mountains,
talking about it.
actually, the most snow happened in Mexico, like north of El Paso. But yeah, they get snow out there. It's just a little,
He lived where it's nice and flat. He talked about that.
Yeah.
You just see
Midland.
everything, just
Amarillo.
as far as you can go there.
yeah, it's like out of Grand Island.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're taller than whatever plants or buildings are around, you can see forever, man. Yeah, I've been out there.
I didn't mind Texas very much. Well, some of the people there are a little arrogant. It's funny, the guy, we had one guy we were riding around with, and we drove and got some fast food. One of the people I was with made a mistake and asked him if he was from Texas or not. And he goes, well, I'll tell you, I am.
Texas natives can be a little bit, but if you know the history of Texas, there's a reason why.
He says, you normally won't, you get a good reaction around here, but you gotta be careful other places because you never ask a person who's from Texas because you don't want to embarrass him if he's not. And if he is, you should already know.
In the big cities, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, there's a lot of imports.
Yeah.
Not natives, just like in Denver. Yeah, I lived out in a suburb of Denver for a while, and the big thing out there was the bumper sticker that said native with Colorado logo, 3 numbers. Because there were so many imports, and the natives wanted to make sure everybody knew that they're real Coloradans, not these foreigners. In Texas, people are
Estes Park.
Yeah.
But I've done a little bit of study. There's a thing about Texas on history and discovery. So
Yeah.
it was 2 hour long, but it was a pretty brief description. There are reasons why people are down here. It's a different world.
Yeah, it's funny. You see them, like,
One of the
they're
things
they're not ashamed to say that we are the best people on the planet.
that might be a little over the top.
It's some of them, yeah.
You don't have to solve it tonight, Ron.
One of the things that I like about most of the native Texans
Yeah,
is they take freedom seriously.
that's a good thing.
And you get like Wyoming people, Idaho people, Montana people, Alaska.
Yeah, that's something I can appreciate.
You get these people on either coast and they're all about government control as much everything as possible. You get to other places like from the government and they pull out the secure. And they're serious.
Yeah.
And the sheriff won't come by and
Yeah.
hassle them about it either.
I always thought it was amusing that there's a few small towns out there that require people to have guns.
When I was a kid,
Yeah,
there were 2 guys who still came into town
yeah,
with
the 6-shooter or whatever.
revolvers in a holster. They weren't on horses anymore. They came in a pickup. But they still came in carrying a revolver.
Well,
And that's in Nebraska.
Yeah.
I forgot to flush out
Ah,
the routing table cache.
yeah.
Completely shut down all the services. Now you can see that it's working no matter what IP address we specify as the source. Here we specify the 192.168 IP address. It immediately finds OpenDNS, and then down here we're specifying the 10 dot IP address, and it's immediately going to the OpenDNS IP address.
That's cool.
It's IP route flush. I think I did IP route flush all.
Did it do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a while for it to figure out the ARP table.
You know, NTP is
Yeah,
like
no.
that too. You gotta
Yeah,
let
I
that sit and settle and
NTP?
sit for a while.
Yeah, 'cause I-
Network time protocol name.
Yeah.
I never have enough patience for that thing, so I never get it to work right. I mean, I tried to set up NTP a dozen times, and I'm just like, this shouldn't be this difficult, just to set up a time server.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, guys.
It's-
I can tell you that John spent a heck of a lot of time trying to make
Well, I
this
certainly
easy.
understand a lot more than I did about all those config files and the settings and entries and.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the IP command, that's good stuff.
It can do so many different things. All that traffic shaping.
Yeah, they got the new one for wireless too, IW. Yeah, you ever play around with that one?
Uh-uh. It's just command IW?
Yeah, IW.
How's it different than? I mean, is it the
It's
same?
like, it's like to go with the IP type thing, and what it is you have the new wireless stacks on Linux, the Mac 802.11 protocol stack.
You have a new what?
The Mac 802.11 protocol stack in the kernel.
Uh-huh.
So now the Linux wireless drivers are starting to get some more advanced features, capabilities. Like similar, if you ever played around with Mad Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
and you had some advanced features like being able to create multiple interfaces and that sort of thing. Well, you can do that with most Linux drivers now that support the Mac.
Is that for like mesh routing, and so you can have multiple IP addresses off a single wireless NIC?
Yeah, like
So you could have like.
yeah, what you could do is you could set up an access point and a client off the same network device, that sort of thing. So you set up
Yeah,
virtual
done that in
wireless
DD
devices.
work. You mean like just multiple SSIDs? Or are you talking about?
Well, you know, having the same Wi-Fi card do multiple things, like have multiple interfaces to it, so you connect multiple networks or create multiple networks with one Wi-Fi device.
Oh, so like the 3 people in my neighborhood that have unlocked
Yeah.
access ports, I can connect all 3 at once?
Yeah, as long as they're on the same channel, I think. I've never really played around with the two.
Ah,
Yeah,
that
you don't
might
wanna,
be-
yeah,
yeah.
it has to do with, it's
But-
gonna be specific to the radio.
Yeah,
But
the
it-
radio's still gonna have to be tuned the same frequency.
But at least, you know, it may have the possibility of having all 3 of those basically cached, all 3 of those different configurations. So if one of your neighbors finds you out and disconnects it, the other 2 would make up for it without even knowing.
Yeah, like
You
you
know,
can set
'cause
up,
it-
I'm not sure which drivers
Is that
support it, but they're
the
starting to
wireless
introduce some
neighborhood?
mesh networking features into it.
Is this yours?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'll take it.
You know, LinuxWireless.org, I think they have what different wireless devices and drivers support what features.
And a totally different topic.
For a while, just haven't.
The Army's strategy in Afghanistan is largely